Ladies and gentlemen and brethren, good evening and welcome to this evening's Solomon Live. We are live across the UK. Indeed, we are live across the world. My name is Brodie. I have the pleasure of being the Provincial Communications Officer for the distinguished province of Worcestershire and also the host of these brilliant seminars. Now, before we begin, you can submit your questions for our very special guest this evening via the question and answer feature on Zoom, and I'll try and get to as many of these as I possibly can. So without any further ado, our Solomon Live this evening is, how is Freemasonry relevant today? So let me introduce you to our very special guests. Good evening, guys. How are you?
Hiya.
Good. How about you?
Good to have you involved. This is a brilliant one for us this evening. Lots of voices, lots to get through in the next 45 minutes or so. But what I thought we could do is get you to introduce yourself. So a brief introduction so we know who we're talking to tonight. So we'll go around my screen. So Shay, would you do the honours first of all?
Hi, I'm Shay. I'm from the Lodge of Honor, number 379 in the province of Somerset.
And nice to have you on board, Shay. And Harshil?
Hi, I'm Harshil. I'm from Kenya and I'm from the Ambassador's Lodge for the Women's Masonry.
Brilliant. Thank you for joining us tonight. Your turn, Matt.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Wainwright and I'm from the St Werburger Lodge, 4147, and we're in the province of Derbyshire.
Brilliant. And finally, Jig.
Hiya. I'm Jig Patney and I'm from Brentford Lodge, number 2400, which is in the Metropolitan Province of London.
Okay, so we've all got to know each other. We've got 45 minutes to answer that question the best we can. How is Freemasonry relevant today? But let's get to know you even more. So how did you first get started in Freemasonry? Shay, you first, please.
I saw a documentary on Sky one evening, and it was actually a documentary and not some piece of science fiction. So it was the actual first introduction to Freemasonry for me. And beyond that, I live around a lot of Masonic temples. So I drive past them and walk past them pretty much all the time.
So from that point onwards, what was it like to join Freemasonry for you? What was that journey like?
It was pretty interesting because I just moved to the UK in 2017. I didn't really know anyone myself. My wife obviously had a lot of her friends and they had partners. So I tried hanging out with them. But beyond that, I didn't have my own social scene. And that's kind of the long and short of it was that's basically how I got into Freemasonry. Was I saw a bunch of guys having a good time. And I thought, well, I want to have a good time too.
Well, look, we'll get to what you love about Freemasonry in a second. But guys, let's do the rounds. Let's ask that question all the way around the group. How did you become a Freemason, Harshil?
So my dad was a Mason. This was in the 70s in Kenya. So I grew up, around the Masonic family. And I always wondered, why can't women be Masons? Because in Kenya, we don't have women's lodges. So I've always kind of a bit upset and disappointed. So my journey kind of moved from there. I went to Masonic boarding school in London. I still didn't become a Mason then. My three brothers are Masons, and I was so upset about that as well, that why can't I be a Mason? So in 2018, one of my dad's really good friends, he's a Mason, and he's like, they have women's lodges in London. So literally, he got in touch with Maxine. I flew down to London, I met her, and then here I am, I'm a Mason now.
And having that family connection, what was that like for you when you were first initiated? Because this is something that's been, a family tradition, isn't it? What was that like?
I think it was the best day of my life. I think it was very emotional, but it was like a birthday. I think I would celebrate that day every year now because it's one of those wishes I always had. I always wanted to be a Mason. So the day I got initiated, I think is probably the best day of my life so far.
Wow, it's so lovely to hear you speak like that, isn't it? And actually, being a woman Freemason, would you say it's an easy process? Because let's face it, there's a lot more of us blokes around. But was it an easy process for you to join?
Absolutely, yes. So I had the interview with the Grand Master and Grand Secretary. The interview was so informal, lovely women. It was lovely to meet them. And then that's it. So it was a very easy process. met lots of lovely women, and it was nice. I just felt like I've got a new family now.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. And Matt, loving the background, unless you are in a lodge and that's not a background.
Unfortunately not. Wishful thinking tonight.
Hey, well, a rare night off, no doubt. So what brought you to Freemasonry, please, then, Matt?
I'd always been interested in the history of Freemasonry and the links to the stonemasons, and that's what always attracted me. And I actually joined through a family friend who I knew was a Mason. I had a chat with him, went and met him at his local lodge, and I was pleasantly surprised that once I actually told other people I was joining Freemasonry, literally 6 or 7 friends in my actual social circle went, "Oh, funny enough, we wondered if you'd ever asked. We're Masons as well." And that was literally a true story. Literally 6, 7, 8, 9 people I knew that were Masons, and I didn't realise until I actually said, "Oh, I'm actually going to join."
And we've all got our own reasons why we came to the fraternity. So for you, it was pretty much history, wasn't it? You know, fascinated by that. What about you, Jig? What brought you to the Brotherhood?
There's an uncle of mine. I was at a funeral, and I think it must have been the black tie, the black suit, and the white shirt that got to me. I thought, okay, he'll do. So he asked me. He said, "Do you know anything about Freemasonry?" At the time, I said, "No." I thought it's maybe some weird sort of handshakes and some sort of brotherhood. I know there's something there, but I didn't know too much about it. The curiosity got to me, and he said, "Look, come to my house and I'll divulge as much as I can." So I went there. He told me as much as he could, and he introduced me to a lodge. He first asked where I wanted to meet, and I chose Ealing. So there's loads of different meeting places in London. Ealing was convenient for myself. So I went there, met a lodge, built up a relationship with them over about 6 months, and eventually I was initiated. I was interviewed, thoroughly before I was initiated, which I don't really do so much now, which is not fair. I try and force it on everyone that comes through. Yeah, it was lovely. I've never looked back since. Completely amazing.
And was it what you expected? Was it? Did you have any expectations?
Not really. I didn't really have expectations. I didn't Google anything. I didn't really research anything on the internet. My uncle did say to me, he said, "Look, it's up to you." He goes, "You can research what you want, and you'll find loads of weird stuff on the internet. But he goes, if I were you, because just leave it and let it be a surprise." And that's what I did. And honestly, without the expectations, I absolutely loved it. When I was first initiated, I had so many questions. And when you're initiated, you don't know what's going on. It's a lot to take in. But as the story unveils, it's incredible. And I know everyone's probably had the same sort of experiences or experience in different ways. I can't divulge as much. I don't want to. But yeah, completely incredible.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes it can be a slow burn when you join Freemasonry. Sometimes you can love it straight away. What brought me to Freemasonry is the fact that I was fascinated with it for years, but I didn't know anyone. Didn't know anybody to speak to. I didn't have anybody in the family. So what I did it the modern way, and that is looked up online and tried to find a local lodge. But let's talk about now what we love about Freemasonry. Ashil, what is it you love about it? What is it that really keeps you in the fraternity? You mentioned it was the best day of your life when you were initiated, so you clearly love it.
I love the values. I think values such as kindness, equality, integrity. I think the other thing is it breaks all barriers, geographical, religious, castes, and it seems that that's what we need. It's a place where you can be as equal to the member. I think that's what I love the most about it.
And that's absolutely true, isn't it? And what about you, Matt? What is it you love about Freemasonry? We could do the entire webinar on this question alone, couldn't we?
Definitely so. Well, as I touched on, leading on from my first point, working hands on myself, the links to the stonemasons and the history of it really attracted me. And I love the fact that when I'm in a lodge standing there performing ritual, 300 years ago, someone else was doing the same thing I was. And I like to keep that alive. I want people to be able to keep that history going for another 300 years and 300 years after that. I also love the fact that I have met new friends through it. That wasn't one of my reasons for joining, but obviously it turned out I actually had a lot of common grounds and a lot of similar interests with Masons I've met since being in the craft. And just the fact it gives me also some focus. I actually find it's actually a break from my everyday life. Once I go in that lodge and the door closes, like Harshiel said, everybody's equal. We're all there for the same thing. And you can just literally focus on something different than normal life for a few hours and just throw yourself into it and get absorbed with the ritual.
You just said something really interesting there, actually. And I've often said this, and that is, it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having at work, you open that door, you shut it, and then it's a different world completely, isn't it? The way we speak to each other, what we're all going through together. Shay?
Honestly, it's hard to find an answer that hasn't already been perfectly spoken about. But for me, at a very base level, I just enjoy the camaraderie that comes with Freemasonry. There's like a certain ring level of support you have around you 24/7, which not a lot of people are privileged to have. And like, for me, that was like the first thing that was my first moment of realizing like, oh my God, I'm actually a Mason, was when I just randomly wasn't feeling well. And it came up on the WhatsApp group and I had 4 different guys saying, hey, are you sure you're okay? Do you need anything? We can help you out. And like I said, someone who had just recently moved to the country, that was a very, nice and warm feeling to have soon after joining something I wasn't really sure what I was getting into when I initially joined, because I don't think anyone really knows what they're getting into. It's kind of hard to tell, but once you get into it, and then on like a much more macro level, I love the buildings we meet in. We have so many like gorgeous, stunning buildings, and some are like really big, some are really small. You got all sorts of colors going on, and they're always, some are in the middle of high streets, some are absolutely in the middle of nowhere. There's no parking for 20 minutes around. And it's just, it's really a nice way for me to like see cities around me that I wouldn't ordinarily have any other reason to go to other than, hey, I know a couple of guys who are from there and they've invited me to attend their lodge.
It's interesting, isn't it? We've all got our different reasons what we get out of Freemasonry. Jig, what is it that you enjoy the most? Because you've perhaps been in longer than most of us, haven't you?
Yeah. So I was just going to say all of the above. That's it. That's my bit. I'm done. On a serious note, it is actually all of the above. It's so interesting listening to everyone else, discuss, what they love, and everyone's got the similarities there. And you talk to other brethren, you talk to other people that have been introduced to Freemasonry or in Freemasonry for a long time. It's actually similar things, which keeps Freemasonry alive. It keeps it moving. It's the brotherhood. It's the like-minded individuals that you meet. I met some incredible people along the way that I wouldn't have otherwise. Now, just by the way, before I carry on and before I forget, when Matthew said, he's talking about lodge, for those that are not in Freemasonry, a lodge is not a building. A lodge is actually made up of a body of people. It's almost like a club, but we call it a lodge. And really, we were at this seminar last week, and one of the brothers was talking about, he was introduced to a lodge, and that lodge is full of all sorts of people, but we make up a lodge. Our friendship, our brotherhood, that brotherly love brings a lodge together. It creates a lodge, which I absolutely love. The visiting, I love absolutely visiting. The charity aspect, the ritual aspect, where it's slightly overwhelming when you come into Freemasonry and you think, wow, but the story unveils very slowly as you step up. So you go through your first degree, your second degree, your third degree, and how the story unveils slightly. The ritual element comes into it very slowly. The whole structure is incredible.
Jig, everybody, Jig. Thank you. That's fantastic. No, I totally agree. What you've just said there was absolutely fantastic. We've all got our different opinions, what we love about Freemasonry, and I think we've just done a really good job in summarising that up. Now, before we get to the questions, I thought what we could do is just ask you one more, because we've got a few questions to put to you for now, and that is, how has Freemasonry helped you as a person? Or has it helped you as a person? What do you think, Matt?
Definitely so, yeah, 100%. when I joined Freemasonry, I was just coming off the back of quite a serious road traffic accident. I was struggling with my PTSD because it was quite a bad crash, struggling with anxiety, and it really did give me some tremendous focus. And the fact that, as we all just touched on there, the support from the lodge and indeed the whole of the province of Derbyshire and some of my friends in the province of Staffordshire, everybody rallied round, helped me out, while I was recovering, took me out visiting other lodges, like Jig was saying, getting me to meet more people from different provinces. So most definitely, yeah, it's given me some good focus, and gave me something to really progress myself and better myself.
And what about you, Harshil? How do you think Freemasonry has enhanced you as a person? I mean, for me, I've got a new set of friends that I never thought that I would have. Friends for life. You always think you've got your friends, don't you? And I'm 51, and I've had some friends since I was a kid at school. But I've got a new bunch of mates that will stay with me forever who are Freemasons. So friendship is so important for me. What about you? What's Freemasonry done for you as a person?
So I've just recently joined. I think it's been 2 years, but like what Jig said, it's a, every step you learn a bit and a bit and a bit, So I'm still waiting for my 3rd degree, but I think overall, as what it's taught me in the last few years is self-awareness. It's brought a lot of self-awareness in my life and spiritual development, not necessarily religious, but I think developing myself as a person. I would say I'm a good person, looking to become better.
Yes.
So it definitely is helping me in my, I think, personal and professional life.
And Shay, how's it enhanced you? We'll put that to you. Sorry, Jig. How's it enhanced you as a person? Would you say?
Me or
was that me or Jig?
Jig.
Jig. Okay, we're there. How's it enhanced me? That's a good question. They say take Freemasonry is to take a good man and make him better. I mean, there's a lot of bettering that can be done with myself. My uncle did say a good man, but for me, I think, it's a good question. I mean, I was always confident anyway, but my confidence became a lot more polished, I reckon. Because of the lodge, because of the ritual, the offices that I took in this lodge, and really, there came to a point where I became a Met Grand Steward, which is, it completely changed sort of my perspective on Freemasonry. I was able to visit so many lodges and see how rituals done, how other lodges perform and how they run their operation. And that really sort of opened my eyes in this. And I just didn't want to stop. I just want to keep visiting. I want to get more and more and more involved in Freemasonry. That's why, Freemasonry comes first, then family, and then work. I'm joking, but it's you can take it.
A few people have got that order mixed up.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm one of, there needs to be a balance, of course, but you can get seriously involved in Freemasonry as much as you want. It's a hobby, right? I absolutely love it, but it's bettered me as a person completely. And the amount of friends I made from it, the right sort of friends, that are incredible. You've got, all of you got a foundation. There's that brotherhood, there's that foundation, which you wouldn't see otherwise. You don't see any sort of organizations. And it's not like, you have the Rotarians, you have the Lions, they're all based around sort of charity. There's a lot of fundraising there. But with Freemasonry, actually, it's a brotherhood, it's an organization first. Even though charity is huge, it's a brotherhood first. And we're not going around outside shaking cans, asking people for money. And I find that completely fascinating. And, like we discussed earlier, I didn't realize we generate 51 million throughout the world, throughout the UGLE. I find that incredible.
Well, we're going to go to a few questions. A lot of people have asked this question, and of course, it is our topic this evening. So we're going to go around the panel with this question: do you think Freemasonry is relevant today? How do you think Freemasonry is relevant today, Shane?
I think it's relevant to anyone who, if they don't need it, perhaps enjoys having a bit of structure in their lives. There's a real sense of comfort that comes from knowing, there's it's a fixed hierarchy, you know exactly where you are within it. We're all equal, but we all do slightly different jobs in the fraternity. And with that comes like you do one job for 1 year, you'll do another job the next year. And it just keeps you on your toes. It keeps you engaged, and it keeps you, and for me personally, I've done things since I've joined Freemasonry that I would have never ordinarily done before. And it's one thing that it's definitely enhanced is I'm a much more patient person now. And I think there's a lot of that missing in modern life today. Everything's very on the go. It has to be immediate. It has to be now. Whereas in Freemasonry, things tend to move at a much more relaxed pace. And so the structure and the regularity and the patience that comes with that regularity, I think, are always going to be relevant to a certain group of people.
And Harshil, the world has changed in the last 2 years, let alone in the last 300 years. How is Freemasonry relevant now, do you think?
Well, let's talk about what's happened in the last 2 years. The lockdowns, it's not just in one country. I think it's in a lot of countries. A lot of people have realized what the question is, what's the meaning of life? And I think it's relevant because I think we all have that question now. We want something meaningful. And I think this is where whoever's interested in joining should pick up the phone or contact either the men's or the women's lodges and just step in. Because I think you'll find, like you said, friendship, integrity. You can leave the strife and struggles of your life aside, and you just come together. I think it's very relevant in this day.
And Jude, we're in a fast-paced world now, aren't we? There's a lot of division in the world, social media, we're all going 100 miles an hour. Do you think Freemasonry is relevant today?
Oh, in so many different ways. I mean, one, you just said the social aspect. I mean, the amount of Facebook groups, each lodge is now having their own Facebook group. My mother lodge has, just to keep it. It's a private group, but that's one. Like as Harshil mentioned, throughout the lockdown, a lot of my lodges and friends through Freemasonry were having Zoom meetings. We're doing Zoom quizzes once a week. That was relevant. The WhatsApp groups, I'm just talking about the technology side of where it is relevant today. On the charity aspect, Ealing distributed 25,000 meals through the lockdown. Freemasonry throughout the whole of lockdown raised a lot of money. I think over just over $1 million, to help people. The amount of relevance it has in society, especially on charity, the air ambulances, the fire brigades, they're all helping solve problems, not just all helping a problem. Their air ambulances helps a problem, the fire brigade. Then you've got even further down within lodges. I mean, those that are in lodges completely understand how Freemasonry is modernized in the last 4 or 5 years, where, at the end of a meeting, everyone's like rushing to get through festive board. So for those that don't know what festive board is, it's the dinner that we have after, where everyone can have a drink and socialize, the fun part of Freemasonry. But everyone's rushing by the end of it. Everyone's like, okay, let's get to it. So that's streamlined, where all the reports, the mentors reports, Elman's report, the secretary's report, it's all done online. And that's helping those that are working, and are not able to get to meetings so early. We've pushed the timings. Freemasonry has become very progressive. I mean, you would know a lot more, Brody. You remember it more than, some of these guys that have come into it, but it's very progressive, the way things are moving.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. And brethren, we're here to ask that question: how is Freemasonry relevant today? We'll get to some more questions in a few minutes. But Matt, we need to ask you the main one of the evening: how is Freemasonry relevant in 2021, nearly 2022?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Once again, I think all the brethren on here tonight has once again touched on the things that it means to us already. I believe it's relevant today. It teaches people to be more tolerant, especially in a society nowadays where it seems to be everybody's disagreeing on things. It teaches you to be more understanding. It's given us the opportunity to meet new people and expand our social circles. And once again, during these last 2 years, as we've all just mentioned there, the charity aspect. I like to help people wherever I can. I go out my way to help anybody. And once again, in Derbyshire, we were donating PPE out to residential homes and doctor surgeries, and tremendous effort by everybody. All just trying to give a little something back, but it also kept us focused at the same time. And just touching back to what Harshiel said in the last question, again, I still think it's relevant today, because there is, although it's open to all religions, as we know, there is, or I find as well, a spiritual aspect of it. And when I've been having a stressful day, got a stressful job, young family, I can't be in the lodge room every single night. Well, I could if I could afford to go visiting that much. So I can just sit there in a quiet room in my house, open up my ritual book, and once again, while I'm reading my ritual and practicing, in my mind, I'm back where I want to be. I'm back with my brethren. I'm back in a lodge, and although I'm sitting in my house, technically my mind's where I want to be, and it's relaxing. And I think it's just a fantastic thing, and I would literally encourage everybody to look into it.
Well, I'm glad you've answered the question well, brethren, because it would have been quite embarrassing if you didn't think Freemasonry was relevant. That would have been a very short seminar right there, wouldn't it? But for me, it's an opportunity to be with like-minded people with similar values to yourself and just have a good laugh. And in a world where we need that, Freemasonry is completely relevant, isn't it? And we'll go to the screen now. Instead of going around the screen, we'll just put a question out there, and one of you can decide to answer this. So Dylan Burgess has been in touch. He says, do you think being a Freemason makes you consider your place in society differently than you did before? Who would like to take that one on?
Oh, 100%. Since becoming a Freemason, like, I'm one of those guys who, as soon as I joined, I got a ring. It's always on me. I never take it off. If I'm wearing a suit, I've got the lapel pin, I've got the tie clip. Wearing such visible representations of the fraternity always makes me now double check what I'm saying and really make sure I'm not acting like an idiot or something. I don't want to do anything that would bring embarrassment to anyone else who might want to proudly say that they're a Freemason. So 100%, you definitely start thinking, because there's a moment that comes in and you realize, oh, I don't just represent myself anymore. I represent my lodge, I represent my province, I represent the fraternity. And you might be the first and only Freemason a person ever meets in their life. And you don't want to have them having a bad impression of the fraternity because of something you've done.
There is that level, isn't there, of representing Freemasonry, isn't there, Jig?
That's a. I mean, James, that's a brilliant answer, really. You know, everyone, you look at yourself completely different, don't you? Thereafter, you know, you're actually a representation of Freemasonry in general. You know, if you're going to act stupid or you're not the right kind of character, what are you saying about the fraternity? You know, your representation of a 300-year-old organization. You know, I mean, not that pressure's on your shoulders, but you feel proud, right?
Absolutely.
Now, with brethren, I knew it would be like this. We've been talking for half an hour now, nearly half an hour now. I knew we'd go in the blink of an eye. So let's keep the questions firing at you. So are you open about your membership? Harshiel, do you tell people about your membership? Do you tell people that you are a member of the fraternity?
Very open about it. Actually, I was asked at work, I think last week, about it. And some lady had some very negative stuff to talk about, you know. Her opinion about it was quite negative. But I think when I did explain it to her, she was quite surprised. And I think she's going to look into it, which is good news. But yes, I'm always very open. I don't think there's anything to hide about. I'm very proud to be a Freemason. And I think, yeah, just carry on telling everybody I'm a Freemason.
It's so different how it used to be, say in my uncle's day, for example, where they never used to discuss it.
No.
I had an uncle who wouldn't even mention that he's a Freemason. I didn't even know members of the family that were Freemasons. Now it's a lot more open. Like, you know, when Shane's talking about watching it on Sky, oh, 1 minute, I'm a part of that. You know, oh, are you? And then it starts coming out. So yeah, that's another relevant point. Yeah, that's one way that it's advanced today.
And Matt?
Oh yeah. Once again, as we've just said, yeah, I wear Masonic rings, tie pins, nice Provincial Grand Lodge of Derbyshire polo shirts. Get a plug in there.
Lovely.
And yeah, I don't just wear this. Yeah, on things like this, I'll wear this out to the shops, out with friends, if I'm in the local pub. And quite often, say, oh, I didn't realise you were a Freemason. And as Harsh Hill said, occasionally, yeah, you do get the old, oh, you're one of them, are you? And one of them, and one of them was a colleague at work, and I said, right, come on then, coffee break, let's go and have a chat. And I showed him a few genuine clips, and showed him our social media pages. And he went, oh right, oh yeah, I didn't realise it was like that. I says, well, exactly. I said, how long have you known me? And he says, oh, nearly 30 years. I said, exactly. So if it was anything like you hear these rumours, would I be involved in that? Well, no, you wouldn't. Well, exactly. So when you take the time to explain to people, actually, well, you've known me a long time as a personal friend, would I be involved in something like that? If they, oh no. And then before you know it, as we're saying, they're looking into it themselves.
And that's where the win is, isn't it? Speaking to people, talking to them on a one-to-one basis. And what about you, Shay? Because there's room for us all. Some members feel they can disclose their membership. Some people choose not to. There's room for us all. What side of the fence are you on? I think I'm actually
50-50. It depends on where I am. Like when I'm in the UK or North America, absolutely 100%. Loud and proud is my style. I was actually at a wedding just last week, and I managed to get the conversation onto Freemasonry. I spent a whole evening making a lot of wives very, very nervous about the fact that all their husbands now suddenly want to become Freemasons. So, I always find a way to bring it up when I'm in, an area that I know it's comfortable in. When I also have family abroad, some countries have a different view of Freemasonry, and it's actually illegal in some of those countries. So when I'm there, I tend to go a little incognito mode. I don't say too much, I don't wear too much, but when I can be, I'm always loud and proud.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, let's move on. Let's go back to some of the questions I've got in my head. And you kind of prompted me to think like this, Hugo. Of course, we always talk about Freemasonry, family, work, Freemasonry. But how do you manage to mix Freemasonry with your work commitments? Because you're young, you're new Masons. That's the reason we're doing this evening. How do you manage to squeeze it into your life? Sheil.
The good thing is that meetings now are always at 6:37, so which is good. You can finish your work and head to the meeting. I think it's just a balance. I think it's anything about life, isn't it? You just have to have a really good balance. And I think this is what Freemasonry always teaches as well. It teaches you how to balance your life, structure your day-to-day. But yeah, I manage it pretty well. Just a bit, was a bit upset with the lockdown. So for 2 years, I don't think we had a meeting or anything, but I'm really looking forward to the meetings. I'm really looking forward to it, yeah.
It was a painful situation, wasn't it, not being able to go to a lodge meeting? I'd never want to go back down that lonely road again. And Matt, what about you? How do you squeeze it into your life, into your family, and into your work life?
Well, obviously, I work full time, and I've got a young family, and it can be challenging. But the way I looked at it initially was, it's 2 evenings a month at most, if that's what you wanted to do, and that's if you wanted to trend the LOIs, which I would recommend to everybody. Even if they're not going on the floor, it gives them good experience. So with me initially, I started off with 1 evening a month going to an LOI, and then 1 evening a month, and that's my lodge meeting. Everything else can be done from home, and obviously, you can visit as much or as little as you want to. So yeah, I find it does fit in, and as Harshil said, most lodges now meet around 6:30, which, if you've got a normal 9-to-5 type job, you can get there. I appreciate it's sometimes a bit more awkward if you're on shifts. So yeah, I do accept that. But for me myself, it fits in quite nicely. And once again, there's quite a lot of things in Freemasonry that you can do at home yourself. Reading your ritual, learning, like you say, the social media side and the WhatsApp groups. You haven't always got to be in the lodge room to be involved in Masonry. So I do find it fits in quite nicely. I would say, a bit like Jig was saying, I have slightly altered the order. I do say family, Freemasonry first and second, and then work comes last. I could get another job.
Yeah, I think I've got that order slightly mixed up in my my life at the moment, Matt. And Shay, before we move on, what about you? Because you're in charge of Freemasonry. Freemasonry is not in charge of you. That's a true assessment, isn't it? The way it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. You, like everyone's alluded to, you can put in as much or as little time as you have. I think we all at some point heard that very convenient saying, "Oh, it's only 5 meetings a month," and then you come in and you find out there's a lot more going on than just the actual 5 meetings. But it's just the 5 are the minimum mandatory ones, and then everything else is optional. For me, I think it basically boils down to where there's a will, there's a way. If you love something and you really enjoy it, you make time for it. And sometimes, yeah, you can't go to everything. Obviously, there are some evenings where you have to prioritize family or you have to prioritize work. But with enough pre-planning, because most of our, like at least where I'm at, most of our dates are preset the year in advance. So you get to put it in January 1st, you know, all your commitments ahead of time for the whole year. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier to do a lot of pre-planning and stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren, this is our Solomon Live webinar. We're asking the question, how is Freemasonry relevant? It's branching off in all sorts of different directions, but a couple of questions to put to a couple of our individual members here. Matthew, what is that picture of the lodge behind you? Mark Delby wants to know.
So that's our main lodge room at the Grange in Littleover in Derbyshire, which is our main headquarters for Derbyshire Freemasons, our main Freemasons Hall. And that's just a background of our main lodge room, where most of the craft lodges that meet in the Grange banqueting suite. We tend to have our meetings in this room. There is another lodge room, slightly smaller, on the other side of the building. But as I say, I find being in the lodge room makes me feel at home, so it's me wallpaper for quite a lot of things.
Absolutely, no, I'm with you. And Keith wants to know, Harshiel, to which of the ladies' grand lodges do you belong to? Because the two after all, we've spoken to both Grand Masters on a previous Solomon Live. What are you involved with?
HFAF.
Absolutely. So, Keith, that's a really good question. Thank you very much indeed. So let's go back to talking about the relevance of Freemasonry from a new and young member's point of view. Let's talk about what we often refer to as light blue clubs, clubs for new and young members. How do you think they've helped Freemasonry?
Oh, if you think about how...
Oh, well, Shay, if you want to go in first, go ahead, mate. I don't care.
Oh, sorry about that.
You carry on, mate. You carry on.
I mean, personally, for me, when I came into Freemasonry, the image you have of your mind, especially when you walk into a couple of things, is everyone's in suits, so maybe it might be stuffy. Obviously, it takes one meeting to realize no one's stuffy at all, and everyone likes to have fun, no matter how nicely they're dressed. But the one thing I've enjoyed from light blues clubs, like I'm a member of the Adair Club in Somerset, is we do things that most other Freemasonic lodges don't consider. We go for paintball tournaments and distillery tours, and we have beach days where we all go try and surf, even though none of us have gone surfing before. And it's a whole different side of the experience, because there's a lot of ritual, there's a lot of structure, there's a lot of suit and tie and tradition, but then there's a really fun side with the same guys you're doing everything else with. So it really helps engage you in like I've always said Freemasonry is a very multifaceted organization, and light blues are as important a facet of that structure as the lodge is, as HQ is, as the provincial level is. It all ties in together, and light blues really serve their purpose in engaging newer members in like a different way that you can't really do in a lodge room all the time.
Jude?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I was never in any of the light blues. I became a dark blue by the time the light blues was initiated. I mean, I think light blues is incredible. You know, to get everyone kick-started, that you're not alone, and then encouraging all the light blues to progress a lot better, a lot further in Freemasonry, is to keep everyone more engaged. Much like also, which we didn't touch on, is the university scheme. The university scheme for younger brethren or younger members is incredible. You know, for them to come into Freemasonry, engage with other experienced members. And really, if you're at university and you're joining a lodge, you're able to mix with people in industry. It might be in your own industry. I mean, don't get me wrong, Freemasonry is not there for any sort of profit or any sort of financial gain, or, you know, for any gains of business, whatever it is, but it's going to happen. You're going to interact with someone in your industry, or in some sort of industry that you're attracted to, or you're studying at university. And I find that completely brilliant. I'm in a university scheme lodge, so yeah, the amount of new members coming through, I mean, the graduates or the universities, there's a flood of Freemasons coming through just from the university scheme. So I mean, I find that fantastic. Aside from the Light Blues.
And a final word from you on the Light Blues Club, mate, because you're a proud member of yours, aren't you?
Yes, indeed. So I'm a member of the Porchway Club in Derbyshire. That's Derbyshire Freemasons Light Blues Club, for, you know, all new Freemasons before going through the chair. We've got a nice, unfortunately I haven't got it with me tonight, but we've got a nice vibrant bright coloured Porchway tie, which we all wear when we attend initiations, purely because it stands out as well. So if we have a good lodge visit, where a Porchway visit, should I say, so there might be a number of us from the Porchway Club that go to support a new initiate, he'll get a letter presented to him for the Porchway Club, and then it will normally be directed to one of us, who can then tell him a bit more about the Porchway Club, give him some details, and get him, before his feet touch the ground, into the Porchway WhatsApp group and get him looked after and engage with it all. So that's one of the good things, again, like we were talking about WhatsApp groups and different things like Facebook groups and things. We've got a very vibrant and very busy Porchway WhatsApp group, and we get the new entered apprentices added into that, and we get them involved straight away, make them feel at home.
And that's what it's all about, making new young members feel at home. I'm the chairman of my Light Blues Club in Worcestershire, called the Cubic Club, and that's exactly what it is. And you do that in all different ways, but that's where we come together. Brethren, we haven't got long, so let's get through a few of the question and answers on the chat screen, and then I'll ask you one more big question to wrap up our brilliant seminar. Thank you so much; it's been amazing. So, David, what wants to know? Do you feel that young or new Masons get enough support from senior Masons at lodges? Harshiel, perhaps you can answer that one for us.
Sorry, what was that again?
So do you think new Masons get enough support from more senior Masons in the lodge when they join? I guess that all depends on the lodge, doesn't it? But from your experience?
Well, we definitely do, yes. We have a WhatsApp group, and we have lots of LOIs where the old Masons joining, the new Masons joining. So yes, we do definitely get a lot of support, yes.
Well, I remember when I came in, and I had arms put around my shoulders, great guidance, lots of advice of don't get involved in too many things. So I think it's all depends on the lodge, but I've certainly got a positive story. What about the rest of you, brethren?
Can I just jump in, and just for those that don't know what LOI is, it's Lodge of Instruction. It's where you learn a lot of ritual, you meet the brethren. That's where you really build your relationships with the brethren. I mean, as a lodge meets, you might meet 4 to 5 times a year on average, but Lodge of Instruction could be weekly, or it could be twice a month. And that's, you know, for those that don't know what Lodge of Instruction is.
Really good point, Jig. Thank you very much indeed. Here's another good one for you, and this is from Andy Morley. And perhaps I can put this one to you, Matt. Do you agree that Freemasonry makes friends for life? We've kind of discussed a few of these things already, but do you think it's a friends for life situation?
Yes, I definitely believe so. Good question. I will definitely believe so. As I say, from being in Freemasonry around 34 months-ish now, I've made a lot of new friends. And as I said, that wasn't one of the main reasons I joined it, but it's been a very good added bonus. And I've found that the friends I have met, it feels like I've been friends with them, 10, 15, 20 years. I can't ever see anything changing that. We've got a lot in common, not just the Freemasonry. The Freemasonry has just brought us together. And then we've obviously built our relationships and bonds via the craft. So yeah, I would definitely say it makes friends for life. They're more like family to me than just friends now.
That's the amazing thing, isn't it? And they kind of creep into your heart, don't they, when you're not looking. Brethren, one more question, and we'll put this to every one of you. We've got a lot of people who are Freemasons watching this, of course, all over the UK, all over the world. Equally, we've got lots of prospective Freemasons who haven't yet joined our fraternity. So what advice would you give someone who's interested in joining? We'll go around the screen. Shay.
My number one piece of advice would definitely be start sooner than you think, because it might take a little bit longer than you expect. When I moved here, I've thought, okay, you know, let me buy a house, let me get settled down, let me establish my roots, let me unpack all my boxes. And then once I'm done with all that, then I'll start Freemasonry. And then once I actually made contact with the Freemasons, from having my first interview to initiation was about a year and a half. So I would, like I said, in a world of now, you know, it was very, you know, very shocking to me. Oh, okay, so it's not going to happen next week. And they're like, oh, definitely not next week. They're like, it's May, it's summer break now, so we're not going to do anything for the next couple of months anyways. And so if you're thinking about it, start the process now, because it might take a little bit longer than you were expecting.
And let's move that question slightly forward. Actually, what advice would you give to a new member, Harshil, who's recently joined or been in quite, you know, just a few months or so?
Keep reading a lot of articles, try to meet the old Masons up, and just try to keep it alive. I think when you're a new Mason, there are a lot of questions still. And because the learning or the journey, it takes a long time, you know, like Sharon said, that from the interview to the first degree or the initiation takes quite a while. So I think for a new Mason, just try and be in the group, try and communicate with the rest of the brothers, and yeah, just keep it going.
And what about you, Jig?
Yeah, thanks. I was just about to add, Shane, brilliant point. Especially in London, we've got a backlog of people coming through. So I'm part of the interview team, and the amount of backlog on the allocations is incredible. And at the back of Harshil's point also is, if you've newly been initiated, the best thing you could do is go to see another initiation. A friend of mine was initiated just a little while ago, about 3 weeks ago, and I sent him to another lodge where he got to witness the initiation. If you've done your second, go witness that. I would say go visit as much as you can. For me, it's the fun aspect. So I'm going to always be like, visit. And you'll meet so many people, you make friends there. I sent someone from another lodge of mine to initiation. I'm just made a call to the secretary, then they welcomed him in. And he made so many friends there that he's actually bringing a few of them back to one of my lodges. Incredible.
Oh, thank you so much. And final word from you, Matt. So we asked the question, what advice would you give to somebody who's coming in? We've moved it slightly forward to somebody who's been in a few months. Final word from you on that.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Having just brought a candidate into some work myself, who's a good friend of mine, known him a long time, and I just knew he'd be right for Freemasonry. I've said to him on many occasions, go out with the Porchway Club, see another initiations, and you can see some passings as well now as a fellow craft. But one bit of advice that somebody gave me, and I'd always give it to a new candidate now, is go out with the light blues, enjoy yourself, but also don't be shy and don't be embarrassed about going up and approaching senior brethren, older brethren, like Harshil said, because in my experience personally, I've spoke from everybody to our provincial Grand Master Arthur Stephen Varley and all the executive of various provinces, because I'm not shy at coming forward and talking to people, and the advice they've given me are absolutely invaluable. You know, all their years of knowledge, they're now drip feeding towards younger brethren. And if you're a bit shy or a bit embarrassed, or I don't want to approach one of these dark blue Masons, or maybe I shouldn't go and talk to them yet, get up there and do it, is my advice. Go and introduce yourself, shake your hand, shake their hands, ask them questions.
Sage advice. Brethren, that's it. We are done. Have you enjoyed your Solomon Live experience?
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I would also say sign up on Solomon.
was going to get to that, Jig. Crikey,
Sorry,
it's on me.
mate.
It's on me.
Sorry.
It's down here, mate. Come on, mate. You're stealing me thunder. Brethren, can I just say it's been an incredible honour to speak to you. I think if anybody's been listening for the last 45 minutes or so, they would have learned quite a lot from an experience, well, from your experience of being a new and young Mason. So can I, it's not necessarily what I'm going to say, but what I'm going to say is, and do this, because I think you've all been brilliant and you've been great ambassadors for us. Brethren, thank you very much indeed. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining our Solomon Live this evening. We're going to be back with you on Tuesday, the 11th of January, where our topic will be communicating Freemasonry with UGLE Director of Communications and Marketing, Michelle Warville. Put that in your diary, but we won't let you forget about it. That's 7:30, Tuesday, the 11th of January. And as Jig correctly said, if you haven't done so already, make sure you register for Solomon Live. So many great reasons to go and check us out. solomon.ugle.org.uk. Until then, on behalf of the Solomon Live team, wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas, a happy and healthy New Year, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.